Hi, everybody. Welcome to From the Mezzanine. This isn't the normal setup that you're probably used to. Normally, I'd be here with my co host, Chuck, and there'd be a lot of fancy graphics everywhere and um, a lot more fine tuned, but we're going to try something new here today. So, there was some unexpected things, life events that happened this week. So, our typical review has been moved to next week. We were going to do Top Gun Maverick, and I'll go into a little bit more on that later. But yeah, I just wanted to still get a video in this week. We never want to skip a week entirely. Sometimes we'll change um, the date that we do it or the time of day, but we never want to skip a week entirely. So wanted to relay that message to you. And then also, just so this video isn't just like a pure announcement, pure just messaging. I kind of wanted to do something new here. We're going to try something with these mini episodes. We might do more of them in the future, whether it's because we're busy and only one of us can make it to the podcast, or maybe we'll spin off some of our other segments into more in-depth videos. But this week, what I wanted to talk about was my experience at Top Gun Maverick. And kind of how I don't think modern audiences can really handle going to movie theaters anymore. And there's a couple of reasons why I think that, but I'll get into that later. First, I guess I'll set up the scene for you. So I was going to Top Gun Maverick this past Tuesday for one of the early showings. And this was in St. Louis Park, Minnesota at the Showplace Icon Theater. Which is a pretty nice theater. They've got a nice 21 and up section that you have to pay extra for, of course. And then on top of that, I had to pay extra because this was an early showing of the movie. And so I get there, me and my wife, we get there and sit down in our seats and kind of settle in. And immediately this family, a middle-aged man and woman, and their two adult kids, I would say they're probably around the 21 age because otherwise they couldn't sit in the section. They sit down next to us, and I kind of immediately knew something was wrong. And, you know, the guy was pounding bourbons, just absolutely pounding them, getting completely shit-faced before the movie. And the mom turns to her kids and she says, it's not screen time, kids. Put away your phones. You can't have them out during the movie. It's not screen time, which I thought was, kind of a weird thing to say to your adult kids, but whatever. And they were just very talkative. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. I've got this sixth sense at this point. Just so everybody knows, that's kind of one of my big things in life. I'm sure there are a lot more noble crusades that you could take up, but if I see somebody talking at a movie or somebody with their phone out or, something that is diminishing the enjoyment of me or any of the other normal, sane people in the theater, I have no problem calling them out. I will absolutely call you out. Like it is my life's work. And so this I knew was going to be a problem. I could sense it. And so the lights go down, previews start. Of course, this woman who told her kids to put away their phones still has her phone out, whips out her phone, still has it out during the previews. Whatever. I'll give a little bit of leeway. I'll give a little bit of room for her to kind of finish up her text conversation or whatever she's doing. But of course, the movie starts and it's still out. She does eventually put it away for probably about 10 minutes. And the other thing I noticed is the dad, who is so shit-faced that he can't really register the volume of his own voice, keeps turning to his kids and explaining what's going on in the movie. Because he was clearly an 80s child, and he kept going, that's the son of Goose, my favorite character. Or like, that woman that Jennifer Connelly is the daughter of the admiral from the first movie, and just explaining the movie to his kids. The kids, I think, could probably care less. I think they were probably pretty checked out, but he was trying to get them involved and just kept talking all the time throughout the whole thing. And eventually it gets to a point where the woman, she has to get up and leave the theater, and as she does, she is like holding her phone up to like guide herself. So not only did she have her phone out, but she was like physically using it as like a flashlight to like guide herself out of the theater because of the darkness. And so she comes back and she's still on her phone. Dad's still talking. And so I eventually just say, "Can you stop talking?" I lean over to them and I say that. I wait for a quiet part in the movie just to give them the most secondhand embarrassment as possible, because I could tell there was other people around us who were getting a little bit fed up too. And they stopped talking immediately. Like it isn't a problem for the rest of the movie. They shut up. They, clearly knew that they were the ones in the wrong, which, I give them some props for. But yeah, this is something that happens all the time now. And it's kind of a given when you go to a movie in a theater that you don't go on your phone and you don't talk. And this is something that's embedded in us through our culture and through the stupid little ads that play on the screen beforehand that say, put away your phone, please don't talk. And yet still people do it. They can't get it through their head. They either don't care what they're doing, or they, are just dumb, I guess. I don't know. Or drunk. In this guy's case, maybe he, his drunkenness kind of gave him a little bit of courage that he just didn't really care. But yeah, it's something that people do a lot more nowadays. And I notice it's gotten worse since the pandemic, since we kind of all went back to the theaters. And I think this is, a little bit to blame because of that. I think people kind of went home to their houses and they got used to watching movies in their living rooms for 18 months. And they kind of treat the theater as an extension of their living room now. They got used to pausing the movie and going for bathroom breaks and snack breaks, or talking to the person next to them without any sort of consequences, and having complete control over the movie. And you just don't have that when you go to a theater. You're sharing a space with people you don't know, and it's kind of up to you and the people around you to create a good experience for everyone else, even though you don't know these people. You probably will never see them again in your life. And it's something we've kind of lost, that sort of congenial experience. Like I, that sort of unspoken, like, I will give you a good experience and you will give me a good experience. And that's kind of the unspoken rule. And we kind of lost that, now that we came back to the theaters, because, this is happening a lot more now. And it's something that I've always had a problem with. And it's funny because people always know that they're in the wrong, because you call them out and they immediately shut up, and they rarely say anything like after the movie. Like sometimes you expect somebody will be like, trying to pick a fight with you, or, they have some words to say after the movie, but it's really never happened. I think I had one time when I went to the Revenant in 2015, some guy tried to start something after the movie with me, after I told him to put his phone away. But of course, it didn't really materialize into anything, because I think that once you tell people to be quiet, they kind of have the rest of the movie to figure out what a dumbass they're being, and they kind of are like, oh yeah, I was in the wrong. And but that Revenant story is kind of a story for another time. But yeah, it's interesting. I think somebody with a lot more education than I, and a lot more brain power than I, will probably do a study on this one day, whether or not it involves this specific scenario of going to the movie theater or not, or just kind of incorporates the idea of it. The idea that we are so like individualistic nowadays, where, it's like, my experience above everyone else, fuck you, I get mine. And, you can do whatever. I don't, you're not in my mind at all. I'll pay you no mind basically. And, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my story. It was an absolutely terrible experience and probably one of the worst, um, times I've encountered somebody like this in the theater. And I'm actually planning on going to Top Gun again today because the experience was so bad. Great movie, by the way. I'll talk about it more next week, but I'm literally planning on going to it again in about an hour from now, because I want kind of that, complete experience with no distractions and no, sort of thinking about, the fact that you're literally sitting next to somebody who you just had like a little, um, tough with. So, yeah, that's kind of my story. And, um, we're going to try and maybe do more of these later in the future. For now, I just wanted to kind of get on here this week and talk about this, and then also tell you what's going on next week. So next week we're going to do our first ever double feature episode. This will be an extra length episode. We are going to do, of course, Top Gun Maverick, and then we're going to also try and do the new Cronenberg movie, Crimes of the Future. So we'll talk in depth about both those movies, assuming that we can get to Crimes of the Future in both of our cities of residence. I know right now it's a little up in the air on that, but regardless, we'll bring you a double feature, whether it's that movie or a different one. And so, yeah, look forward to that. Otherwise, this has been the first From the Mezzanine mini-sode. And thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.